You're asking maybe a little later. I'm going to let some others ask questions.
Okay.
Mr. Speaker,
Mr. Romero, for the purpose?
does Jim yield for questions?
Gentleman yield for questions?
Yes.
Gentleman yields for questions.
Chairman Hunter, I'm a little troubled. I've never heard anyone say in this body, and you've certainly been here longer than I have, but for you to say that you're not required to have hearings, I understand that may be a fact, but I don't understand that to be Texan. I don't understand that to be something that we would not welcome opinions of the public. And yet we did hold 3 public hearings. So with all due respect, Mr. Chairman, when you say that this was just you and the lawyers, what would you tell any Texan? Because I believe every person that testified under oath. Is that correct?
That I don't know. I hope they did.
Well, if they registered to testify before any committee in this House, they do have to register under oath that what they say is true and correct. Is that correct?
I follow the House rules like you, but you're asking me a personal question. I don't run the committee. I'm sure Mr. Vasut did everything accurately, but you're asking me beyond my role.
And that's where I'm troubled, Mr. Chairman, is that that someone would come down, affirm that everything that they're going to say is true and correct, and then to hear now you say that they're not required, didn't have to happen, and that you did this with you and your lawyers and you gave them instructions, means to the public they really don't have any reason to come to this great building that we serve in with so much history, because they won't be heard. But
I 100% disagree, and I get the right to respond.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, I'm your independent political analyst, no spin, no tribalism, just facts, context, and thoughtful commentary. Today, we're diving into a heated exchange in the Texas legislature over redistricting, and it raises some pretty important questions about transparency, public input, racial representation, and the role of lawyers in the redistricting process. Let's break it down.
Number one, I 100% disagree with you. Number two, and you're not going to like this, but for 18 days, things could have happened. You all chose to walk out. To me, you damaged the process. You kept people away. You kept work from being done. Don't use that as an excuse to belabor this bill. 2, legally, and I'm talking legally, we didn't have to do hearings. I just said Chairman Vasut asked for hearings. I supported him on those hearings. I sat in a hearing in addition for 12 plus hours. I am glad we did hearings. And I also encouraged all members and anybody that they wanted to come visit with me and serve for 18 days. Certain members did not. And so to come up here and say public don't matter, they absolutely matter. And by gosh, you're forgetting political performance. That political performance, Republicans do matter, and they're in this bill.
Well, let's talk about
and
political
U.S. Supreme
performance.
Court says we can do that.
Let's talk. I'm going to ask you a series of questions. As you know, the population growth in Texas has been, over the last 20 years, has been almost half of that has been Latino population growth. So, Mr. Chairman, did you do any analysis or review whether voting is racially polarized in Texas before, during, or after the drawing of this map? And if you did, can you tell me what districts of the new maps are located in areas where racially polarized voting exists?
Representative, I'm going to give you the answer that I gave in committee, so I'm consistent. 1, I worked with counsel, just like your opposition groups are working with counsel against this plan.
So you never asked counsel?
Let me finish. So counsel told me that they had checked everything legally, did everything analytically, and absolutely assured me this bill is proper form and legal. So if the polarization that you're asking about, I'm certain that they did all that analysis, but I relied on them. I don't have the specific knowledge.
So you're certain, that makes me feel comfortable, that you might have directed them to include racially polarized voting. So what analysis of Latino voter preferences did you conduct before drafting any of the districts in this plan?
So what I just said is I asked counsel to look at increasing political performance and to follow all rules, regulations, laws to make sure that what was proposed was legal and proper. What they did specifically, I don't know.
So do you agree that racially polarized voting exists in Texas?
From a legal standpoint, I think that's a debatable in the courtroom, and I'm not able to tell you that now. Is race different in certain areas of the state and how people treat each other? Absolutely. But in this particular one, Representative, I would do everything I can to have lawyers draft it so it is proper and that it does do what is legal.
So it's somewhat vague, so I'm going to just dive a little deeper. You gave direction for the reasons that you gave, but I'm asking specifically, in giving those directions, and you said following the law, do you believe that they considered racially polarized voting?
Do I have personal knowledge? The answer is no. Do I believe that they checked every box, checked every law? The answer is yes. I have huge respect for the lawyers.
Mr. Chairman, does the Federal Voting Rights Act require the creation of any Latino majority congressional districts in Texas?
I do know that when you talk about coalition districts, which
That's
is
not my question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes,
With all
it
due
is.
respect.
Yes, it is. Disrespect, you're not letting me answer. I don't agree with your question. You said a mandate on Hispanic. That does impact coalition districts. It does impact the issue of majority. And the Fifth Circuit in Petaway says you're wrong. Now, number two, is there a specific requirement? 4 out of the 5 brand new congressional are Hispanic. 4 of the 5 are Hispanic majority.
Mr. Chairman, does the voting...
But if there's a requirement, I'd have to ask counsel.
So the answer to the next question, does the Federal Voting Rights Act require the creation of any black majority congressional district in Texas? And I believe your answer is you don't know.
No, I would do what you and 90% of the people on this floor that have lawyers that have created the lawyer annuity plan in redistricting. You all go to your lawyers to get them to give you a response. I go to my lawyer to get a response. So if there's a legal question, I would go to them and they would give me the information.
And I do believe that when I talk to my lawyers, I give them direction, clear direction. I don't say follow all the laws, especially given when we're talking about the population growth, the growth of our state and where it's come from. Mr. Chairman,
I disagree now, sir.
That wasn't a question.
No, you're not supposed to make statements. You make a statement, I get to respond. You just said you don't tell them to follow all the laws. I absolutely do. Okay. I tell them to follow all the laws.
Mr. Chairman, are you aware of any additional DOJ communications to the state of Texas through the governor's office, AG's office, or otherwise regarding unlawfulness of the current congressional map?
I am aware through the committee process that there was a Department of Justice letter. I've had no communication with Department of Justice. I have no communication with the governor's office about that. I've had no communication with anybody about that except general members in the committee process.
Mr. Chairman, are you aware if the DOJ has threatened any enforcement proceeding or action since the initial DOJ letter to Governor Abbott?
I have no specific knowledge on that.
Mr. Chairman, do you believe that in the Dallas-Fort Worth region where I'm from that there should have been a Latino majority district created? And do you realize that there is no Latino majority district in Tarrant County?
Well, there is in the North Texas area, but if you're trying to split it up, for example, Houston, are you talking about under the new 5?
Thank you, Mr.
If you're talking about under the new 5, it's Houston, Valley South, Dallas area is a brand new district, Coast South, San Antonio. So those were the areas that the new 5 are, if that's what you meant to ask.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So, the discussion begins with a lawmaker pressing Chairman Hunter about hearings. The concern was simple. If redistricting decisions are really just being made between lawmakers and their lawyers, then what's the point of the public testifying? After all, people came forward, many under oath, to share their perspectives. If those voices don't shape the outcome, then it risks sending the message that public input is more symbolic than substantive. Now, Hunter pushes back hard on this. He reminds everyone that hearings weren't even legally required, but they still held 3, and he personally sat through one that lasted more than 12 hours. He also argues that the process was damaged when certain members walked out for 18 days, stalling work. In his view, that absence hurt the ability to engage and get things done. From a neutral perspective, this is a classic tension we see in policymaking. On one hand, lawmakers want efficiency and legal compliance. On the other, the public wants to feel like their voices actually matter. Both can be true at the same time. The legal requirement may not exist, but the political and symbolic importance of hearings shouldn't be dismissed. Next, the debate shifts to racially polarized voting in Texas. The questioning lawmaker points out that nearly half of the state's population growth in the last 20 years has been Latino, and asks whether that was taken into account when drawing new districts. Hunter's response is telling. He says he relied entirely on legal counsel, who assured him the maps complied with the law. But he admits he doesn't personally know if racially polarized voting data was reviewed. He frames it as a legal question that's ultimately for courts to decide. This highlights a recurring issue in redistricting. Lawmakers often defer to legal teams instead of engaging with the social and demographic realities themselves. That approach keeps them legally insulated but can also feel evasive. After all, representation isn't just a legal technicality. It's about ensuring communities with shared interests have a voice. The questioning continues with direct asks. Does the Voting Rights Act require Latino or Black majority districts in Texas? Again, Hunter points to his lawyers. He stresses that he directed them to follow all the laws, but he doesn't give a definitive yes or no. He does, however, claim that 4 of the 5 newly created districts are Hispanic majority. This exchange is important because it shows the tension between legal compliance and political accountability. By always leaning on lawyers, Hunter positions himself as following the law, but also means he avoids answering tough policy questions about representation and fairness. The Department of Justice comes up briefly. Hunter acknowledges there was a DOJ letter raising concerns about the maps, but he says he hasn't had direct communication with the DOJ, the governor's office, or the attorney general about it. That suggests the state knows federal scrutiny is there. But Hunter is keeping some distance, likely to avoid saying anything that could complicate the legal defense of the maps. Finally, the exchange ends with focus on the Dallas-Fort Worth area. The questioning lawmaker argues that the region should have had a Latino majority district, pointing out that Tarrant County doesn't have one. Hunter pushes back, pointing instead to Latino majority districts created in Houston, the Valley, South Texas, San Antonio, and the Dallas area more broadly. This is a reminder that redistricting isn't just about numbers, it's about geography. Even if the state creates Latino majority districts overall, where those districts are located can drastically change political influence. That's why local advocates often fight not just for representation in general, but for it in their specific communities. So, what do we take away from all this? First, this debate underscores how redistricting always sits at the crossroads of law, politics, and representation. Technically, hearings may not be required. Legally, compliance can be outsourced to lawyers. But politically and morally, people want to know that their voices and communities are respected in the process. Second, Hunter's approach shows a clear strategy. Lean heavily on legal counsel for cover, while framing the maps as lawful and proper. That's smart from a legal defense standpoint, but it leaves open questions about whether the maps truly reflect the state's demographic reality. And third, this is far from the last word. The DOJ, the courts, and advocacy groups will continue to challenge these maps, and the outcome will shape representation in Texas for the next decade. At the end of the day, this isn't just a Texas story. It's a national one. Every redistricting fight comes down to the same core question: who gets heard and who gets left out? Thanks for watching. If you found this breakdown helpful, make sure to like the video, subscribe for more unbiased political analysis, and drop a comment below. Do you think public hearings in cases like this are more symbolic, or do they genuinely influence the process? I'd love to hear your thoughts.